Here's something that will change how you read this story. Everyone says Jacob wrestled an angel and got a spiritual breakthrough. That's not what happened. Jacob wrestled his victim. 20 years earlier, Jacob had disguised himself as his brother Esau and stolen their father's deathbed blessing. It wasn't a small lie. It was identity theft at the most sacred moment of their culture. Esau had threatened to kill him for it. So Jacob ran. He fled to his uncle Laban's house, hundreds of miles away, and built a whole new life there. 2 wives, 11 sons, massive flocks of sheep and goats. He became wealthy. But he never went home. Now it's been 2 decades. Jacob finally decides to return. He sends messengers ahead to Esau with a carefully worded message. Genesis 32 verse 4. Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau. Thy servant Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban, and stayed there until now. Notice the language. He calls himself the servant. He calls Esau the Lord. This is a man trying to shrink himself. The messengers come back. Verse 6. We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. 400 armed men. Jacob's response is immediate. Verse 7. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He doesn't think maybe his brother wants to reconcile. He knows what 400 men means. That's not a greeting party. That's an army. So Jacob does what Jacob does. He schemes. He divides his entire camp into 2 groups. His reasoning is brutal and honest in verse 8. If Esau attacks one company and destroys it, then the other company which is left shall escape. Then he sends wave after wave of livestock ahead as gifts. He's trying to soften the blow with bribes. And then, as night falls, he does something that reveals just how terrified he is. Verse 22 and 23. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them, and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. He sends everyone across the Jabbok River. His wives, his children, his servants, everyone. They cross to the other side, the side where Esau is coming from. He puts his own family between himself and his brother, and Jacob stays behind, alone, on the wrong side of the river. Verse 24. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. It's completely dark, and suddenly someone attacks him. No introduction, no voice from heaven, just a figure in the darkness, and they're fighting. And here's the detail nobody talks about. Jacob is winning. Verse 25. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. The mysterious figure is losing. Whoever this is, Jacob is physically stronger. So the figure cheats. One supernatural touch and Jacob's hip dislocates. The pain must be unbearable. But Jacob doesn't let go. The figure says in verse 26, Let me go, for the day breaketh. And Jacob, crippled, in agony, says, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. Think about what's happening. Jacob has spent 20 years running. He spent his entire life manipulating, scheming, staying one step ahead. And now he's trapped between the river and his brother's army, wrestling something he can't see, and he chooses, for the first time in his life, not to escape. He holds on. The figure asks him in verse 27, What is thy name? And Jacob has to say it out loud. Jacob, which means heel grabber, deceiver, cheater. He has to name himself for what he is. Then the figure says something that changes everything. Verse 28, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. Israel. The name means he who struggles with God. Not he who obeys God. Not he who trusts God. He who struggles. Jacob asks in verse 29, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. The figure refuses. Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. Just blesses him and vanishes as dawn breaks. Verse 30. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. He saw God face to face. The text never says angel. Jacob wrestled God. And he walked away limping. Verse 31. And as he passed over Penuel the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. And that's what makes this story true. You know that thing you've been running from? Not the vague sense that something's wrong. The specific thing. That conversation with your sister you've been avoiding for 3 years. That lie you told your boss that's still on the books. That person whose name makes your stomach drop when you see it on your phone. You've been doing the Jacob thing. Scheming, dividing your resources into 2 camps, sending gifts ahead, calling yourself the servant, doing everything except the one thing that terrifies you. At some point you run out of river. The thing you're afraid of is on one side. The thing you've been wrestling in the dark is on the other. And you have to choose whether to let go or hold on. Jacob held on. He demanded the blessing even while his hip was dislocated. He refused to run even though running was all he'd ever known. And he got a new name, but he also got a limp. The transformation you're afraid of won't make you perfect. It will mark you. You'll walk different after. But you'll finally stop running. And whatever's on the other side of that river, you'll be ready to face it.